Oh, of course we do. Oh, wow. We might have had a previous life together. Who knows?
You can give it instructions, then.
Pretty as we are. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for taking some time out of your Saturday morning to join us here at WCTC, Waukesha County Technical College. My name is Rolando De Leon. I am the diversity coordinator here on campus and oversee the Multicultural Resource Center. I have the privilege to welcome you today as one of the club advisors for the Latin Student Org that is collaborating today with the SOFIA organization. The other staff club advisor is Karina Tomei. And we just wanted to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming. We hope that you ask questions, we learn some new things, and have the opportunity to engage in conversations as well. At this moment, I'm going to turn it over to Isabel, who is a student on the board for the Latin Student Org, and her role is a treasurer for the club.
Where he played a significant role in establishing the Hispanic American Studies program, a faculty advisor to the Latino Graduate Student Coalition, as well as to MECHA and the Latino Living Center. He was a presidential appointee to the second Clinton administration at the USDA, where he oversaw a $2 billion budget and a workforce of nearly 15,000. Dr. Figueroa was the director of the Roberto Hernandez Center for 14 years and an associate professor in the Department of Urban Planning, both at UWM. As director, he created the Palm Endowment Scholarship Fund, raising nearly $150,000 for UWM. He also created the Nonprofit Leadership Program, LNLP, which he oversaw for 11 years, with producing 180 program alumni, LNLPers. He has continued and served on many national, state, and local and commissions, as well as serving as a mentor for many former students. Dr. Figueroa retired in June of 2018, and since then has established the Gente Chicana Somos Chicanos Fund in the greater Milwaukee of LSO.
Hello everyone, I'll be introducing Primitivo Torres Martinez. Primitivo Torres has been a part of various organizations, which include VOCES as a statewide director of Wisconsin Coalition for the Safe Roads Coalition to pass driver cards for all in Wisconsin. He was also part of RAICES as a case manager, working inside detention centers in South Texas. He prepared asylum seekers for credible fear interviews and represented asylum seekers in immigration courts and in front of immigration judges. He assisted, prepared, and followed up client cases with a legal team. He was also a bus station and airport coordinator for family asylum seekers. He prepared and advised families for their ICE check-in and initial court appearance. He, on average, helped 100 families daily. He was also the Bexar County campaign director, where he was in charge of organizing all campaigns, for the organization of all campaigns in Bexar County. He oversaw GOTV campaign work, and he had experience in the Texas Ethnic Commission by reporting.
Proud father of 4 and goes to come. Next up is Erika, our activities planners for LSO.
Hi everyone. I will be introducing our third guest speaker, Dr. Armando Ibarra. Armando Ibarra is an associate professor in the Department of Labor Education at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He serves as the director of the Chicano-Chicana and Latino-Latina Studies programs, as a faculty Latino specialist for the Division of Extensions, and is affiliate faculty in the Labor Center at UMass Amherst. He earned his PhD in political science from the University of California, Irvine, and holds a master's in public administration and a BA in sociology and Spanish. His research and fields of specialization are Mexican, Mexican-American, Chicano and Chicana, and Latino-Latina working communities, social movements, community development, international labor migration, and community-based participatory applied research. His most recent book, The Latino Question, Politics, Labor,
here, telling me with the special effects and everything. You know how it is with technology. Sometimes, it could be a blessing, other times it's a little pain in the neck. So, again, welcome. My name is Bernie Gonzalez, and I'm a task force chair for SOFIA. For those of you that don't know SOFIA is a faith-based organization. And SOFIA works in a lot of issues and has been in Waukesha County for a very long time. I encourage you to pick up a book from one of the tables back there before you leave. And as you know, SOFIA is also non-for-profit. There's some envelopes in there, so make sure that you do your contribution. Focus too much on me. I cannot express how grateful I am for the people that are here. The panelists here that you have in front of you, these are amazing people that, when you think about, in sports, the dream team, this is my dream team right here. I mean, I worked with them, Dr. Figueroa, during his, the leadership development program. I was one of the students, one of the graduates. He's also a mentor. Primitivo, I mean, he's been at the forefront, he's, the front lines, wherever he is with regards to immigration. He's not afraid to put himself in front and go for it and express his views about what's right with regards to immigration. So, I also happen to know him from UW-Whitewater. We attended together with UW-Whitewater. And Armando, lately I've been working a lot with him. He's doing a lot of work. Recently he wrote a couple of books. And so, this is my dream team. I'm very excited to be here. And we're also wanted to let you know that we're going to be live streaming. So, a lot of people are going to be watching from the comfort of their home. But for those of you at home, the coffee's better here.
Good morning, buenos dias. And Bernie, I want to thank you as well for your service to our country and also for your service to the state of Wisconsin. What he did not mention is that he's also a founding member of the Latino Task Force, which is part of the University of Wisconsin Division of Extension that is going to inform how Latino issues in education and programming happens at the University of Wisconsin. Thank you, Bernie. So I've been asked to contextualize our conversation today, and so I prepared a really short PowerPoint presentation so that we can begin to have an idea of the numbers and focusing on Latinos in Wisconsin. And so what you have here is I'm going to present on a series of maps that were prepared in collaboration with the Applied Population Laboratory. The Applied Population Laboratory is really a good source of information that's housed at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I've been working with them for many years in producing these types of maps, these types of information for the public, and that's what I'm going to focus on. 30+% of the overall U.S. population will be Latino. The majority of it of Mexican and Mexican ancestry. Here in Wisconsin today, our most recent estimates put Latinos at over 400,000. We're about 7% of the total population. As we can see, the Latinos are concentrated heavily in the Milwaukee, Racine, Dane County areas, but we can also see in places like Brown County. Latino population, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a bit. Roughly about 100,000 of these 400,000 Latinos in the state of Wisconsin are foreign, meaning that the majority of Latinos that reside in Wisconsin, guess what, folks, aren't immigrants. They were born in the United States, more than likely in Wisconsin. When we look at the population, the school population, school system. And this is really an important number because it's an indication as to this demographic shift that we're talking about. If we want to know what our state is going to look like in 10 years, look to the schools. We know that Latinos in Wisconsin participate at similar rates in employment age population that's happening where the majority of the Latino population is young and the non-Latino population is aging out of employment in the world we have. Folks, 10% of all births in Wisconsin today are to Latina mothers. Again, this is really important when we start talking about this demographic shift that we are undergoing here in Wisconsin, as we are in the rest of the country. So I always like to show this because I created it, right? And I'm not very good with technology, but I'm good enough to be able to do a word cloud. So what we have here is a word cloud, and it's representative of a study that I conducted on Latinos in Wisconsin within the sample that I drew from. But what we have here is we have U.S.-born Latinos, as we have captured in this study, and foreign-born Latinos. So like I said before, the majority of Latinos in Wisconsin were born in Wisconsin. Okay. And the majority of foreign-born Latinos in Wisconsin, the majority of them are from Mexico. About totals, particularly at the high school level, as non-Latino enrollment declining. There are schools across the state that would close if it wasn't for Latino student enrollment. And we can have a deeper conversation about what that means as we move forward in the panel. So what comes next is just a series of maps for you to start visualizing the growth and the dispersion of Latinos in Wisconsin. In our state today. So I'm going to briefly just show this graph that we have there because it really does speak to a larger demographic shift that's taking place. And I chose this because it shows Latinos becoming the largest ethnic group in the state of Wisconsin now. They surpassed African Americans in 2014, right? And when we talk about a demographic shift, this aligns in those variables that I just told you. So this demographic shift, as I said, it's being it's being caused by three primary factors, right? It's immigration from Latin American and Asian countries to Wisconsin. So Wisconsin has become a destination of choice for immigrants now. Okay, so no longer are they going to Texas first, or are they going to Florida or to California. Now immigrants are coming to Wisconsin directly as choice. Migration of Latinos from other states, right? People from California, Texas, that self-identifies Latino coming to Wisconsin, and the high birth rate in the Latino community. These in combination are what are causing the demographic shift both here in Wisconsin and across the country. And there's nothing scary about it. It's very natural. It's going to happen. We can build walls. We can exclude immigration to this state. But this demographic shift will continue simply because of population patterns. So just in sum, here in Wisconsin, Latinos are the last.
We all know that immigration is a very hot topic, and this is very emotional for some of the immigrants, and actually for everybody, as far as the rhetoric and what we hear out within our neighbors or social media and all those things. And sometimes it's very information that is not accurate, and sometimes it's hurtful information as well. So let's talk about some of the things, and we're going to ask the panelists directly some of these questions that we often hear, that it's always out there. So the first question is, do immigrants help or hurt the economy? And this question could be answered by any of the panelists.
Can everybody hear me? Buenos dias. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Muchas gracias for organizing this. I'm an economist by training. My PhD is actually agricultural economics. And the consensus among economists across the country is that immigrants and immigration is a net positive for economy. Okay? Overall, there's been a number attracting more native-born people to those jobs. But because you have this inflow of low-skilled folks, that effect is there. So overall, the total economy is a net positive, but at the lower end, you have this negative wage effect.
I mean, I would say that here in our state, a great deal of people, they have a myth saying that, they're here to take our benefits, and it's a total opposite. Here in our state, they contribute over $72 million in state taxes. And if we look at the overall effect nationally yearly, they give $7 billion to the Social Security alone. And do they receive anything in return? They do not. They do not qualify. Their U.S. citizen children do qualify, but there's immigrants that give to the economy, that give to the Social Security, they do not get anything back. So you're looking at $7 billion per year that they contribute to the Social Security.
Well, I would. So from that aspect, I think that if we look at economies as social constructs and as things that bring people together, I think it's a net positive. But I will go on to the next question and we'll problematize it.
Bernie, can I just add one point that I should? Remittances. Everybody knows that what remittances are, that the amount of money that is earned in one country and sent back to the home country where those immigrants are from. Again, there's good news, bad news. Their estimates somewhere range about $5 billion to $6 billion are remitted from the U.S. to Mexico alone by Mexican immigrants. Now, those remittances sustain families in Mexico. Absent of those remittances, those people would be allowed to work. Conversely, if those remittances would have stayed here in this country, then that economic impact would rotate here instead of Mexico. So there's a moral question that people have to deal with about how those individuals that are sending all that by law, if you cannot use public supported benefits, if you're an undocumented person, for sure. If you're a green card holder, yes, you can have access to public sector benefits. It's important to realize as well, though, that all those supports that go to, for example, if you're green card holders, those have a net positive effect on the economy as well. If those individuals would not help to sustain themselves through hard times, then those individuals eventually over time will become net negative impacts on our economy. So those are investments that we do as a society that benefit those individuals in the long term, benefit us totally as well.
I mean, the answer to that question is no, they don't receive any benefits when it comes to any public benefits, when it comes to the undocumented, when it comes to the immigrant. Now here in the state, I'm going to put the figure up again, they give 72 million in taxes. And if you break that down, that's 36 million in sales tax, 22.
And by that, we're talking about 10.5 million in the country right now. These are all Q estimates. Just go Google Q and get those estimates. So we're talking about 10.5 million. Of these 10.5 million people, let's say about 7 million of these unauthorized are majority Latinos. Of this population as well, 70% of this population is working populations. Okay, immigrants, unauthorized immigrants do not come for the public benefit, they come for the work. That's something that's been historically a pattern. I was speaking with Dr. Figueroa earlier that I just read Manuel Camio's book from 1929, documenting the lives of working Mexicans in the U.S. commissioned by the U.S. language about public benefits, which is the language that we'll hear and read into it, is something that was present there as well. So with regards to using public benefits, we need to define what we mean by public benefits as well, right? And that's something that's very complex, it's very nuanced. We're talking about breathing clean air as a public benefit, right?
That immigrants do a lot of crime, okay? Participate in a lot of criminal activity. In fact, the research indicates and shows that criminal nature of immigrants is lower than the criminal nature of the population of the U.S. as a whole. Okay. The other thing that is related, the more people know immigrants, in other words, anybody that interacts with immigrants, the lower the probability of they having these myths. Okay? Because people that don't have any interaction with immigrants form these myths because they simply are going by somebody said on the radio or read on the web. That in fact is the case. Immigrants' criminality is lower than the average in the U.S.
If I could also say one thing, I do want to touch base on that as well, but when you look at what they give compared to the wealthiest families here in Wisconsin, actually there's a study done by Wisconsin-Madison. It basically came up that Wisconsin, the immigrants pay 7.5% of their income tax compared to 6.2% of the wealthiest families. So the immigrant population pays a higher tax than the wealthy. The increase in crime, it is a total opposite.
And it's a frame that has been around for a very long time. Those of us that study labor migration know that this frame of illegality, this frame of stealing jobs, this frame of criminality is something that has been around when discussions about immigrants is prevalent. So for over 100 years, I can only speak to what I studied, which is mass labor migration for Mexico. It's something that is not new to our conversation. One of the things that we also, I think, brought up when people brought this to the table is that unauthorized immigrants do not have access to Social Security upon retirement. Think about that. You work here, you pay into Social Security because you still have to provide some sort of Social Security number to work, but you will never get that benefit that you're paid into. So in large part, these unauthorized workers are actually subsidizing.
One of the things they're saying, well, terrorists could just come in, through those porous walls right now and create harm or inflict, harm to, United States citizens. Tell me a little bit about that.
Unfortunately, the 9/11 terrorists came into this country through where? Through Canada. Okay? We're building a wall in Mexico. All right? How does that make sense? Secondly, you build a wall that's 12 feet high, somebody's going to come up with a ladder that's 14 feet. Okay? The last time that I looked at these figures was around 2008 or 2010. We already have about 800 miles of wall built already. Okay? That already exists. The last time I looked at it, those 800 miles of wall had about 1,000 holes in it already. Guess who was fixing the wall holes? Mostly Mexican Americans. It doesn't work, folks. It simply does not work. And it's our taxpayers.
So the wall, let's just remember what it is, and exactly what it is a symbol of racism. That's all it is.
So in 2015, 2016, net migration was actually down. So when I use that number of, I think, 4.5 million unauthorized folks here, that's down 15% from its high point in about 2009. So immigration has been going down, folks. I think that's one thing to put on the table. The majority of folks that are here that have a current unauthorized status, most of them came in as with non-immigrant visas, right? With non-permanent visas, so they're visa overstayers. So when we have those conversations that are much more nuanced about the actual numbers and how folks come to our country, then it becomes a different conversation. A wall is a wall is a wall, right? So a wall is symbolic. I think it plays to a certain political base, which is fine, if that's where we're at as a country. But with regards to stopping flows of folks, of people, it really, it doesn't work. And
undocumented immigrants contribute to the Social Security system, but they get no benefits, correct?
yes,
How do they do that?
they
They're,
use a social security number when you get a job.
right, but where do they get it if they're, I mean, does the government issue Social Security numbers to undocumented immigrants?
I'm not sure what your question is, sir.
There's a market unfortunately for Social Security.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So you can ask somebody down the street, in fact, when, way back in '86, when PERCA was being debated, the Immigration Reform Control Act, the market was about $500. You could buy a Social Security.
Okay.
So you, instead, my name is Enrique Figueroa, so when I showed up to be employed, I had a Social Security that said Juan Martinez, okay? And so the money went into Juan Martinez's, okay? But me, I would not have access to it because I'm not really
Okay.
Martinez.
There are also what are called ITN numbers, where you, as a company or as a person doing business, can apply to and get that number. It's Social Security right number.
What's that called?
An ITN number.
ITN?
Yeah, it's an individual taxpayer. Individual tax.
There was raids on these poultry production plants. 200 plus people were picked up by the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency, as we know. Most of these folks were working with Social Security numbers. Where they get those Social Security numbers, I couldn't tell you. I have an idea. But yeah, so you do need a Social Security number to work. And not what happens is you get a number and you get a name that doesn't match the number. And that's where we get the situation when you have what are called no match names, right? Where not, your Social Security doesn't necessarily match the name that's attributed to that as well. I think that's a practice that's been around for a while. I did some work in the 90s and early 2000s, and for example, in Virginia, in poultry production plants where folks, you know, and in these poultry plants, it's 90% internal workers recruited by the company to say, if you get here, you got a job, right? So that's the other part of the conversation that I think is important to have, is how did those 200 workers end up in Mississippi working for these poultry plants, getting jobs there? And what is the story that unfolded there that...
Okay, that statute, that law, had one word in it that has brought us to the situation we have today. And that word is knowingly. The sentence in that statute says, employers are legally liable for hiring unauthorized people if they knowingly know, or they know that they're undocumented. That one word. Any employer does not have the responsibility of finding out whether I'm legal or not. As long as I show up with the Social Security number, that's all that employer needs to know. If that word was not there, we would be in a very difficult situation today.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, sir. Anybody else have any questions?
This about rapes, human trafficking. You'll also read stories where undocumented and authorized workers come to our country and employers mistreat them. They put them in, you know, almost like a workhouse kind of situation. I read a few articles about that, and that's one thing. As a woman, especially regarding the women and children, I am very especially concerned about. And I don't know if you're going to be addressing that now or coming up, but I just think it's a really important issue that we all need to be aware of.
So, I mean, I was inside the center, the detention center called Karnes County Detention Center, which is in Karnes City. I live in San Antonio, Texas, so it's maybe like an hour, 45 minutes away, right by the border. And the first month, when the zero tolerance policy started last year, first month we had 11 sexual assault and rape cases, just the first month, inside those centers. We worked with different federal agencies on trafficking cases, because what we started doing is started taking care of the airports and also the bus stations, because we saw that they were very vulnerable there. We would help them pass their credible fear, go on to the next level, but at the bus stations, the airports,
allotted some time for you to tell us a little bit about what you saw as far as the children and the families. So can you tell us a little bit about what your experience was working down the border and some of the things that made a big impact on you and affected you personally?
Absolutely. Well, I work for a place called Raíces. It's the biggest nonprofit legal entity there in the state of Texas. And we work very closely with Catholic Charities and ACLU. We represent maybe 100 families per day. We take care of all the centers there at the border. So we work predominantly, there's 2 detention centers there in Texas, and there's 1 more family detention center in Pennsylvania. But there's a lot of regular detention centers that are popping up almost on a daily. And what we saw is cruelty at its worst. We worked with different attorneys that have been down there for decades, and they basically said they've never seen nothing like it ever before. We have to remember where these people are coming from. And the people are fleeing persecution. They're fleeing death. Most of the cases that we receive, what we do is we go through what is called, because there was a lease that came up, we were able to shut it down, and we were able to find sponsors for these children, and overnight they picked up these children and they took them to Homestead, Florida. And that was the next stop. So it is a money-making machine. That's what it's all about here at the centers. Now, as Armando alluded, as our numbers have been going down, absolutely. They doubled from last year, but overall immigration numbers have been going down. So we're doing maybe 100 families a day, and we hear every single story you can think of, and there is a lot of stories of abuses. Now, the way the traffickers work is on the way there, they might not have a sponsor, because whenever you ask for any kind of asylum, the first thing you need to get out after you pass your credible fear, that's the beginning of asylum, then you do your asylum case in the United States. It can take up 1, 2, or 3 years. But during that time, people along the way, or you all these other people that take advantage of this family, they say, we'll get you a sponsor. And that's all we need is a sponsor for them to be able to get them out of the centers. And these sponsors, a lot of times, end up being traffickers. So we're putting right now between 20 for 20 days, unless you have excruciating circumstances, and they were breaking the law every single week. They were giving them longer and longer, so they actually passed what's called indefinite detention. And a lot of this is just profit. If you look at the money that these Civic and Geo, that's the private businesses, are making, the last 10 years the stock have went up dramatically. These guys are becoming billionaires. When you look at this lobbyists, when it comes to pushing indefinite detention, they're as big as pharma. These lobbyists are on there every single day trying to make this indefinite detention. So now these families, going back to the families, you know, what they're going through, a lot of them are fleeing violence, a lot of them are fleeing persecution. And the first thing they see is cruelty. They see what is called hieleras. A hielera is the first thing they go under. It's really to break your spirit. A hielera is a freezer box. That's all it is. They keep you there 3 or 4 days with no water, you know, and they give you certain water, obviously, but they don't give you food at those places. Not everybody gets food at those places. Have you heard the stories, people drinking from the toilet? We have cases that we saw personally, that people do drink from that. It all depends on the guard that you have. From there, they bring them to, right, and other centers started taking notices. They were like, they wanted out. They wanted their freedom. They were being held there as pawns for this administration, unfortunately. So what happens is they decided to do another hunger strike. These are people who they have children, they have been separated and reunited again. So they had just, I was there
and other caseworkers were there when they were reuniting these families, were there between the parent and the child, and it's devastating itself. After this hunger strikes, they went in there and they re-separated these parents again and took them down to what's called Pearsall. So now we have a big loss, what's called a Pearsall case, because they re-separated these families, the leaders of this movement, and they put them in holes, and they say, you're never going to see your children again. They told you, you're never going to see your parents again. We did a federal lawsuit directly with DC, and they were to bring them back after 2 days, but that's 2 days left a psychological scar on these children. So they put in their own psychologist, and they decided these kids are fine. So we brought our own independent psychologist, his name is Dr. Kleinman, 89-year-old gentleman who flew his own plane to the border and said, I want to help. And I was there interpreting for him, and he said, it's the most devastating, should be held accountable.
Thank you, very people. We have a question.
As I was listening to what you're saying about the economic system and the system of detention, what came to my mind was that it's basically a system of indentured servitude and servitude, in a sense. Black people were affected in the same way 150 years ago through the 13th Amendment that ended slavery, but created a provision that people could be incarcerated, basically put in a situation of servitude if they committed a crime. So the detention system that you're talking about is a system of slavery, basically. The economic system that you're talking about is a system of indentured servitude because the employers hold over the non-documented people's heads, in particular, the threat of being reported and deported, or in terms of detention, children being taken away, all these things. So what are those boxes, the dog cages, all that, other than the same kind of thing that was done to slaves? So black to that. One is there are many people who are good people who are taken in by the lies, okay? And I'm wondering, number one, how would you recommend, from your experience, talking to some of those folks, who I do. I was a social worker for 30 years, now I'm retired. But I have friends who are good people, but they're taken in by the lies, the myths, all of that you guys are doing a great job at debunking, right? So, number one, ideas on that, communicating with people, so maybe they can listen and challenge some of their beliefs that are based on falsehoods, okay? And number two, looking at the 150-year history, well, 400 years of slavery, but 150 years since the 13th Amendment during Reconstruction, what do you see in terms of the sense of hope for changing the system for immigrants, as well as other minorities who have been demonized for many, many years in this country that has a Statue of Liberty that says, everybody's welcome? Thanks.
So thank you for the questions, and I just wanted to add as well, people, thank you for sharing your story and your work at the border. Immigrant families are part of what are called mixed-status families. Mixed-status families is where in any given immediate family, there are different statuses within that family. So, for example, in a family, there could be U.S.-born citizens, naturalized citizens, people that have permanent residence or some sort of authorization, and people who are authorized. So that is when we talk about the tapestry of these families and how they're interconnected with all of us, that is what we look at. If we take estimates about the school age kids, as I said here, when we look at mixed status families, we know that approximately 72,000 K-12 Wisconsin students are touched by a mixed status family. This is the future of Wisconsin. Right? So when we take it at that level and start talking about the ethical and moral implications that are taking place here in our state and across the country with regards to the future of our state, then those are real questions that we have to deal with as a community. What is the Wisconsin of the Father? To begin paperwork, custody. What are you going to do if you get picked up and your children are at school? Who's going to pick up your children? right? And to have these conversations with first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth graders, or what have you, are conversations that you're ending that childhood, in my estimation, in those children. You're taking away that innocence, because at any given moment, your family will be ripped apart. That was one of the takeaways that I took from those meetings. Exploitation. I mean, I think the one thing that we do know about exploitation is that most everybody benefits from the exploitation of immigrant labor, right? You know, that perfectly polished apple that we eat, right? When we go up to Sturgeon Bay and have that wonderful meal that we get, some of us, the homes we live in, the roads we drive on, all our lives are touched by immigrant labor, with a large part of it by unauthorized immigrant labor as well. So those are the dilemmas that we deal with, that when we do have.
My father was born by the name of Enrique de Gracias. When World War II broke out, there was a gentleman named Lorenzo Figueroa that had been born in San Antonio, Texas. And he got drafted. And he said, I'm not going to go. So he went back to Mexico, to the little town that my father was from, Zaragoza, Coahuila. And my father said, I'll go in your place. So my father came across with an assumed name of Lorenzo Figueroa, joined the army, served 4 years in the Pacific. Okay. In 1955 and 1956, the Eisenhower administration had a policy called Operation Wetback. I don't know if you have read about it or heard about it. Operation Wetback deported both legal and illegal Mexicans back to Mexico. My father got caught up in that. After he had served 4 years defending this country. Number two, things were such, the negotiations were such, that was left out. Okay? We could have had that. It was left out. Thirdly, NAFTA did the following. NAFTA allowed, by the way, the corn tortillas eaten in Mexico today, guess where the corn is grown? Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. We send what's called a unit train. Unit trains are trains of 100 cars, okay, into Mexico on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis. There was a number of subsistence corn growers in Mexico that were making a living, poor, but they were making a living growing corn, selling a little bit, but subsisting on that. Iowa can produce a bushel of corn at $1.43. The Mexicans cannot match that. So what happened with NAFTA, we sent all this corn to all those subsistence farmers that were staying there, no longer could make a living, and guess where they went?
Specifically to destabilize these local economies. And because of that, Dr. Enrique Figueroa just outlined this process. For a time there were 600 immigrants from Mexico that were leaving every day that would not have immigrated to the U.S. if it wasn't for NAFTA. So that's 600. So we're talking about 2 million plus people right there that couldn't compete in this new marketplace because they were competing against subsidized U.S. corn. And for the first time in Mexico's history, even before it was called Mexico, right? For the first time in its history, it no longer produces enough food to feed itself. It becomes a net importer of basic grains.
And thank you for bringing that up. And the same thing can be said of the Central American countries, because the most migration we get at this moment at the border is from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And you look at the trade policies, a lot of it has to do with that, obviously.
Representing the Democratic Party, but I'm an integral part of that organization here in Waukesha County, and especially in the city of Waukesha. We have done just about everything we can think of to activate Latino voters who are eligible to vote. But the voting record for Latinos in Waukesha County is dismal. We hired a Latino coordinator who recruited bilingual people. They went door to door. They appeared at even at St. Joseph's Church in Waukesha, which is kind of a tough thing with Catholics when you're Democrat. But anyway, we're just plumb out of ideas. We've done phone banks, we've knocked on doors, and I know, I've experienced this myself. When you knock, and I think I'm rather not too intimidating anyway, but when I knock on a door and I'm holding a clipboard, there's an element of fear by anybody in the confines of that home. And vote for. So, any thoughts, ideas?
Sure. Keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, I just said to my friend here, who we realized we didn't know where we knew each other from, and now we do, it was the 08 Obama campaign, that I've given up on Latinos. I've given up, I don't know what else to do.
Let me suggest the following, and I'm going to make some, I've been a Democrat all my life, a presidential appointee in the Fed administration, involved in politics, most of my life. The Pew Hispanic Center, which is the premier center in this country that generates data about Latinos or Hispanics in the country, they did a survey asking, national survey, how do you most identify yourself? This is just a Latino Hispanics. 25% answered as Americans.
I'm sorry.
As Americans. 50% identified themselves as their country of origin. I'm Mexican, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Colombian. The remaining 25%, about 12 and a half, identified out the Latino vote. It's not working, folks.
It is? No?
It's not working.
That's what I'm saying.
And in my judgment, it will not continue to work. People do not identify with it.
Give it up.
So in California, at Figueroa, we had a governor by the name of Pete Wilson. And Pete Wilson proposed similar type of legislation for California as is being proposed nationally right now. These anti-immigrant, anti-Spanish legislation, Spanish language. And what happened after that is that there was a reaction from the Latino, Hispanic, Mexican American, Puerto Rican community, and that really was the primer to, I think, this transformation that's taking place in California, right? But also the population patterns in California is what has been transforming California's politics, as will eventually happen in Texas as well. So I think that what you'll see is oftentimes the context of the time, right, is well written entire studies based on how context impacts voting.
Just quickly, this is a very short and to the point question, so it'll be quick. Do you think that one of the reasons that people don't vote is because they've been disappointed over and over and over again, and that people haven't made promise for immigration reform or other things that is not happening by either political party? Can you just touch on that a little bit?
So just really quickly, Brendan. So when we talk about immigrant voters, right, and specifically when we talk about Latino immigrant voters, one thing that we do know is that once an immigrant becomes a naturalized citizen, right, that they're just as likely to vote as native foreign citizens. So that's one thing to also start unpacking this voting trends that we're talking about. So that is something. So new immigrants vote at similar rates as folks that were voting
it's clear that folks will vote, come out to vote, one, if they see and go away. Doesn't work. We know it doesn't work.
I think it's right in Texas, if you have a Latino last name, you probably will get elected. They have, one thing that I can say is we're trying to work as hard as possible to make sure we have the biggest turnout ever here in Wisconsin. Letting people know that this is the election of their lifetime. But one thing that you can get either Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, Colombians out to vote is a group setting as well. We have people, most of them are people of faith. They're going to congregate in a church, congregation, and that's when you talk to those people. I know in politics you cannot talk in church. I just met with Bishop Callahan from La Crosse this week. Last week I met with Bishop Hahn here from Madison, and I've been worked very closely with the Archdiocese here with the Stecky, very conservative side. That's what we need. But at the same time, they open up the churches to us, for us to talk about just getting people out to the vote, not just getting who to vote, but that's where we wanted to start. It's the praises of worship as well. Supermarkets.
I think when we look at trends overall, maybe we see like declines, we see ebbs and flows of by campaign, by year, we know that more people vote in general elections than they do in mid-year. So it's a bigger conversation here that we have. But we also haven't brought up the responsibility that we have as a society in public education to teach about civics and to teach about engagement as well. And maybe that is a bigger lift that you're talking about, that it's a responsibility of us all than just particularly the Democratic Party or any party in general. The greatest socializer that we have in our country is our K-12 education system, public school system. And that's where we learn about, about the importance of and the value of civic engagement. And so I think to have those bigger conversations also help we create a consciousness of being involved in the very structures that govern our lives and the lives of future generations.
Let me offer two things. Arizona and Nevada. The participation of Latinos in those two states. And SEIU, the hotel workers, CINOs, Nevada, those unions had a significant impact on getting out the Latino.
Alrighty, so we have a question over here as well. It's actually a little bit more of a statement, but as well-meaning white people, I think we need to check ourselves when we hear ourselves saying things like helping those people. We need to check our biases. And in this work, our job is to get out of the way in some cases, and to be allies and supporters. And I think that some of the trouble that we face as progressive white people is that we are in the way. And part of our job is to step aside and uplift leaders from the populations that are impacted by immigration. Immigrants and those who are directly impacted should be at the center and the front of all of the work that we do, and we're there to support. So I just want to call that out to my white friends in this room.
Thank you, Carla. We have a lot of people that do not actually participate, a lot of Latinos, because having quisiera que les mandara un mensaje ustedes, si hay esperanza de que las cosas se compongan en su opinión, qué es lo que debemos hacer, un consejo nada más para levantar nuestros espíritus.
Mira, es importante que las personas que puedan votar salgan a votar, es importantísimo que ejerciten sus derechos. Y los que dicen yo no tengo derecho al voto, pero tienen derecho a acción. Ellos conocen personas, tienen familiares, tienen amigos. Esta es una carga para todos. Y entre más participación tengamos en el voto, en las elecciones, más beneficios podemos recibir, más decisiones a nuestro favor, más representantes que nos van a representar a nosotros mismos y no a sí mismos.
Es muy importante, como acaba de decir Primitivo, todos nosotros que podemos votar, votemos. Si no votamos, esencialmente lo que estamos haciendo es dándole al derecho a los individuos que voten, que elijan a personas que representan los intereses de ellos. Y muchas veces eso nuestra comunidad en particular necesita. Y tenemos que mandar esas necesidades por nuestro voto.
Aquí, como dijeron mis compañeros, los panelistas, los que pueden votar, voten, ¿verdad? Pero también todos los que votan y no votan, involúcrense en las estructuras cívicas de sus comunidades, involúcrense en sus escuelas, involúcrense en las iglesias, involúcrense en donde hayan audiencias públicas sobre pólizas o políticas que nos afectan como comunidad, pero también no nomás a nosotros en lo inmediato. Hay que pensar en el futuro de las generaciones que vienen después de nosotros también. Involúcrense en todo lo que puedan, en donde se están haciendo decisiones. Y los que puedan votar, voten, y los que no voten, a los que no quieren votar, que voten también.
We have time for one more question, and then we're going to give them the opportunity to do some closing remarks.
I have a question. What we're going through, we're still going through the similar issues.
So, I mean, that's a very good question. I think there's a saying in Spanish, la unión hace la fuerza. And that is exactly what we need to be. We have to be united, not just as Latinos, but also as people. You have to realize that these are human issues, right? So the question is basically, it's a question that we've been tackling for many years and years and years, right? Because you have discernment, you don't have unity within the one Mexicanos, or the one Puerto Ricanos. So how do we all together kind of line up and make sure we're going the right way, make sure that we're following the right policies? Well, it is something that we are working on a daily basis. And I think we have to find that we have a lot more things in common that have stuff that divide us, right? Right now I'm working on a campaign for driver's license, and I'm working statewide. And I'm having these conversations with people who think differently than me. And those are the kind of conversations that I value, that I welcome. Because everywhere I go, they're saying, oh, this license, they're going to get benefits, they're going to be able to vote. So,
voted for President Trump in 2016. Who wants to give me a guess?
26%.
Very good, 28%. Very close. 28% of Latinos voted for President Trump in 2016. What do I tell those people? Those people, excuse me. What do I tell them? How do we have a discussion? Okay? The point is that even though we need to get unified, we do have a diverse Latino community. That's the reality. We're not all homogeneous. Just like no other ethnic group is homogeneous. But this is troubling to me. Okay? Because he started his campaign by what? You guys are rapists. He called us that. And yet, 28% went out to vote for him. We have to start having dialogue. We can agree to disagree, but we have to start by having dialogue about this is why I think this way. And listen to the other person why they think that way.
Yes, and that's where I was going to go here as well, is that I have hope that all people have a strong moral standing, Latino, non-Latino. I think that we're all in this together. I think that in the end, I think we will have a country that reflects the values that we carry on with us and have in common, right? Love for country, hard work, and love for each other. And that is the position that I take within the Latino community, as has been said. You know, labels like Latino, Hispanic often obscure rather than clarify the social complex relationships that communities have, even within these categories, right? So, for example, a person that self-identifies as Latino from Cuba is different than a person that self-identifies as a Latino from Mexico. That is different than a person that self-identifies as a Latino from Puerto Rico, right? Each one of these groups has their own unique histories and relationships, their own unique cultures and languages, and their own needs, a lot packed in their
All right, at this time, I'd just like to offer the panelists any closing remarks, no more than a couple of minutes. Dr. Figueroa and then Primitivo and then Dr. Armando.
I don't know how many of you are retired, but I retired a year ago. And one of the luxuries of being in retirement is that I can do whatever I want, I guess. But what I've chosen to do is that I've chosen to read. And I read a lot in the last year. And I read a lot about my internal self. I read a lot about the spiritual dimension of each of us. And one of the things that has surfaced is that universally, not nationwide, but universally, all of us want to have a sense of belonging. All of us want to have a sense of identity. All of us want to have a sense of purpose in life. And all of us want to have a sense of meaning. And when we think in those terms, and applying them to a community, in applying them to a better community, which in turn translates into better countries. We all want better lives for ourselves and our children and our grandchildren. That is true universal. And we have to tap into those sentiments in our own creative ways. Thank you.
I have a question for you guys. Who in this room cares about what's going down at the border at this moment? I want to see a show of hands. And I think just by you being here shows that you care. There was a time where we were inside the detention center, and at that moment we had off, it was all mothers and children at the center that I was working at. And there was a notice that President Trump's wife was going to come down to the border. And they felt a sense of need at that moment, that they wanted to hear that somebody did care in the administration. We have no idea why they needed that, but it was a need for the over 700 mothers and children that we had. So we all said that was inside the center, important. Let them know that we care about their livelihood, about their families. We care about them not here in Wisconsin, living in their homes, and some of them might not come back to their families. This is happening right now here in Wisconsin. So just for you being here shows that you do care. And I appreciate every single one of you for being here. There's one more thing that I do want to say is I am working a campaign for a driver's license. We have a very small window of opportunity to get this done. Because once January is over, it's going to be election mode, and they're not going to move anything this Valentine. So right now we're doing the legwork around driver's license, and it is a thing that we show this community that we do care. Because we're looking, let's say we pass driver's license today, tomorrow, over 32,000 of these families will qualify. In the long run, you're looking over 90,000 families that will qualify for this benefit. Simple as a stop for a headlamp, for a plates, whatever the case may be, it can lead you to deportation, especially here in Waukesha, the 27G program that we have. So, do we care? Absolutely. And that's the reason that we are.
This is what's needed. This is what connects us. This is what makes our humanity real. When we're able to have these very hard conversations, well, some would say hard conversations, some of us would say they're easy conversations, about the direction of our country with regards to the current state of immigration and immigrants. My father is 78 years old. He's been in this country for about 60 years. And he became a citizen this year at his ripe old age. So that is something that I look to. You know, there's two things that I never thought would happen with me in my life. One thing is, I never thought that I would move to Wisconsin and live here. The second thing is, I never thought that I would have children in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is home. And I have 3 children that were born here in Wisconsin, who will be Wisconsinites for the rest of their life. This is home, folks. This is how migration happens. We follow our own moral compass, and it'll take us to a place where we need to be as individuals. Again, thank you all, and thank you for sharing this space with us this morning.
Well, you all did great. You had some really good questions. I'm hoping that we all learned a lot. It's just the beginning. This is not, by all means, we're experts on everything, but I think it's important to have this conversation. One of the people that was here has to leave for a meeting. Fernando Rodriguez was a veteran for the GI Forum, and I just wanted to acknowledge his presence. He's actually, they support a lot of the veterans that are being deported. That is happening. We didn't talk about that, but actually, Dr. Figueroa did mention one, but that is happening, and that's also work that needs to be looked into and done. So he's there, wanted to let everybody know that that's the work that they're focusing on with the AGIF, with the deported veterans. So another thing, SOFIA, one of the SOFIA's acronym is Steward of the Prophetic Hopeful 2:30 at the courthouse, which is 515 Westmoreland Boulevard, October 3rd at 2:30. And this is to learn a little bit more about the program and basically to let them know that we don't really need that, and basically we'll disagree with that because it just creates a lot of fear within the community. SOFIA, also, we'd like to invite you to participate in our immigration task force. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved. We just ask, a few hours of your time per month, or whatever you can afford. We'll definitely take it. Get involved with SOFIA. We have a lot of task forces, but if you want to get involved, we're also going to send you an email if you signed in, but if not, stop by and talk to us, and we'll get you plugged in with some of the work that we're doing. And lastly, I want to thank Dr. Alina DaCosta, who's here from Carroll University. Thank you so much. She does a lot of great work in the community. Round of applause for her, too. And a big round of applause for our panelists. So just bear with us a couple more minutes and we'll be done. Thank you.
On behalf of the chain, so thank you for making it. Have a great Saturday and good week.